Good morning, brothers and sisters. You are listening literary terms. What is myth? A handbook to literature. Holman, 1995, defines myth as an anonymous story that presents supernatural episodes as a means of interpreting natural events. Myth originated from the Greek word mythos, which means the story. Every literature, whether Indian, Greek, Roman, etc., has its mythology, which is related to its religious beliefs and rituals. Myths have always been instrumental in forming the thoughts and beliefs of various cultural groups. Though myths and fables both are forms of storytelling, they vary in their subject matter. Myths are stories involving supernatural events and supernatural heroes, expounding the natural events that could not be explained logically through science. Fables, on the other hand, are the tales meant to deliver a moral or spiritual lesson through beasts, plants, and sometimes non-living things. What is catastrophe? Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines catastrophe as the final event of the dramatic action. It may be taken as the final resolution in a plot. Catastrophe originated from the Greek word catastrophe, which means an overturning. The main objective of a catastrophe is to unfold the climax and comprising the culmination of the plot. In a tragedy, it may involve the death of a hero. In a proper catastrophe, order is often restored, as can be visualized in the Shakespeare tragedy Hamlet, when Prince Hamlet gives his dying word to Fortinbras as the new king. What is plot? The plot in a dramatic or narrative work involves the arrangement of incidents and events into a coherent pattern. Aristotle calls plot lifeblood of tragedy and compares it to a living organism, just as a part of a living organism must be properly related to each other and to the whole. Similarly, parts of tragedy should relate to one another and produce a unified effect. Talking about the scope of the plot, Aristotle takes the concept of wholeness and magnitude. By wholeness, he means that a plot should have well-defined beginning, middle, and end. The beginning is that which does not follow anything by casual necessity, but after which sometimes comes as a natural consequence. The middle is that which follows something and has something following it. The end is that. The end is that which comes after the middle as a casual necessity but has nothing following it. Plots can be classified as simple and complex. A simple plot is that which has a continuous, streamlined, unified action and is without reversal and recognition. Whereas in the action of a complex plot, peripecia and anagrosis should develop out of the very structure of the plot. Some narrative involve a subplot, a second story that is complete and interesting in its own right. A subplot serves to broaden the perspective and enhance the overall effect of the main plot. Next is meter. Meter refers to a certain systematic arrangement of stressed and unstressed levels in a verse. A foot is a group of syllables taken as a unit of poetic meter. It is a certain fixed combination of syllables, each of which is counted as being either stressed or unstressed. A line in a verse may contain a fixed number of syllables and yet have varying number of stresses. The four standard feet distinguished in English are lamb, I am, unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable, that is am. Anapest, two unstressed syllables followed by a stressed syllable. Prochi, a stressed syllable followed by an unstressed syllable. A stressed syllable followed by an unstressed syllable, that is trochi. A stressed syllable followed by two unstressed syllables, that is decitylate. A number of feet present in the metric line determine its nomenclature. Monometer 1 foot, diameter 2 foot, trimeter 3 foot, tetrameter 4 foot, pentameter 5 foot, hexameter 6 feet, heptameter 7 foot, octameter 8 foot. To identify the meter in a verse, the syllables are grouped into metric feet according to the patterning of weak and strong stresses. What is soliloquy? Soliloquy is a literary term in which the character speaks his thoughts aloud when alone on the stage, sharing them with the audience. The word soliloquy is a combination of two Latin words. Solo means to oneself. Loquer means I talk. Dramatists use soliloquy to delve deep into the recesses of the character's mind and reveal his deep-rooted thoughts to the audience. Sometimes, through soliloquy, the speaker expresses such facts which he otherwise would not wish to reveal. Two other related terms are dramatic monologue and aside. Dramatic monologue also reveals the character's inner thoughts, but it is characterized by the presence of a silent listener. In a soliloquy, the speaker is alone and he speaks to himself, thereby revealing his inner thoughts to the audience. In aside, On the other hand, characters are present on the stage, but they are not supposed to be hearing the speaker. Next is development of prose. The Elizabethan age refers to the period of Queen Elizabeth I's reign. The period was marked with vigorous intellectual thinking, explorations, adventure, and advent of the Renaissance spirit. All these factors left a great influence on the literature of the age. English prose took significant strides in the Elizabethan age. Stimulus in this direction was given by the work of the translators who familiarized the reading public with Spanish and Italian romance and short stories. A lot of prose works with theme ranging from Platonic idealism to realism and romance were dominated all types of literature. The most important prose romance of the period is John Lyly's Euphues, The Anatomy of Wit. He repeated the success in Euphues and his England, Sir Philip Sidney's Arcadia is also a pastoral romance. Arcadia is famous for its refined and ornate style as well as detailed pen portraits. In the Elizabethan age, there was a flood of short literature. Pamphlets became very popular due to the availability of cheap mass printing. English pamphleteering was fresh and full of vigor. Notable pamphleteers of the age include Robert Greene, a dramatist, poet, and pamphleteer, who wrote 25 works, which established him in the literary circle of the time. His short story, The Coney Catching Tracts, became very famous. Allen's work, Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay. Thomas Delany was known for his realistic prose fiction, though basically he was a pamphleteer and ballad writer. However, his novel, The Gentle Craft, also established him as a successful fiction writer. His narrative is devoted to the glorification of craft. Thomas Dekker, dramatist and writer of prose pamphlets, is known for his lively depiction of London life. He has been he has not given he has given not novels but social studies, and the best of them is the Girl's Horn book. The literature of the Elizabethan age was not entirely based on imagination. Due to Renaissance and other social, political, and religious causes, literary works were also based on intellectual and artistic themes. Francis Bacon, the first prose writers of the times, made a valuable contribution to the development of the English prose. Bacon published the first edition of his essays in 1597. Terseness of expressions and epigrammatic brevity are the most striking qualities of Bacon's styles. Many writers focused on writing historical chronicles. Chief among them were Walter Raleigh, History of the World; Francis Bacon, History of the Religion of Henry VI; Coke's Acts and Monuments or Books of Martyrs; and Raphael Holinshed, Chronicles of England, Scotland, and Ireland. At a time when the spirit of adventure was strong. The literature of travel naturally flourished. Richard Richard Hakluyt's principal navigations, voyages, traffics, and discoveries of the English nation is the best example of this genre. In the field of theology, a great deal of important work was done. Richard Hooker's of the laws of ecclesiastical polity is a sober, dignified, and closely reasoned defense of the Church of England. His book remains a standard work of theology and is at the same time a classic of English prose. Development of literary criticism in the Elizabethan age shows that people were beginning to be interested in the forms and principles of literature as an art. The best known of these treatises is Sidney's Apology for Poetry. Other similar works of some importance are William Webb's Discourse of English Poetry and George Tottenham's Arte of English Poesy. Thus, we can say that the Elizabethan age was a period of great literary activity and prolific writing. English prose of the times became the popular medium of amusement and instruction. 18th century prose. The 18th century highlights a change from court-centered and poetic literature to democratic, decentralized literary word of prose. Writers expressed their feelings towards the changing social and political conditions through pamphlets, magazines, journals, and newspapers. Novels and periodical papers are the two gifts of this century to English literature. Satire developed as a form of literature due to the union of politics with literature. This period witnessed the development of simple, clear, well-reasoned, and lucid prose style. Prose of the 18th century can be divided into two categories: non-fiction and fiction. What is non-fiction? The chief characteristics of the 18th century non-fiction literature are essays with the influence of Montaigne and Bacon came in vogue with varied themes like fashion, moral subjects, love affairs, politics, art, family, etc. Biographies and autobiographies were well received. Pamphlets, periodicals, newspapers, and epistles became the best medium to express political and religious controversies of the age. It was an age of great historical writing. Some of the most important non-fiction writers of this age are as follows. The first one is George Berkeley, 1685 to 1753, a famous Irish philosopher. His works range from mathematics and economics to metaphysics and psychology. He was the major contributor to the theory of subjective idealism. His famous work on philosophy is a treatise concerning the principle of human knowledge. Then we have Adam Smith, 1723 to 90, a Scottish economist and philosopher who published Theory of Moral Sentiment, which covered the theme of ethics, rhetoric, jurisprudence, and political economy. With his wealth of nation, Smith established modern economic theory. The contribution of Joseph Addison, 1672 to 1790, and Richard Steele is immense in popularizing periodical essay. The main objective behind writing the periodical was to improvise the morals and social manners of the people. Jointly, they found the daily journal, the spectator, and the tatler. The combination of literature and journalism established this publication as a medium of cultural expression. John Danish, 1657 to 1734, was a famous critic of the age. In his works, Ground of Criticism in Poetry, three letter on the genius and the writings of Shakespeare, Danish criticized Shakespeare for not adhering a poetical art. The period between 1696 to 1900 to 1699 was the most fruitful period of Jonathan Swift's 1667 to 1745 literary career. He published A Tale of Tub, a satire prose on religious extreme, his series of ironical pamphlets on the church, namely an argument against abolishing Christianity, is also famous. Edward Gibbon, 1737 to 94, was the famous historian of the age whose The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire offered the public a vivid narrative of the past. Edmund Burke, 1729 to 97, an orator and political thinker, was an important figure in the history of political theory. His prominent works include A Vindication of Natural Society and a philosophical inquiry into the origin of our ideas of the sublime and beautiful. Dr. Samuel Johnson, 1709 to 84, was an essayist and literary historian, and he is particularly known for his A Dictionary of the English Language. Oliver Goldsmith, 1730 to 74, wrote essays, plays, novels, and poems. Prominent serial miscellany, the Bee ran for 8 weekly numbers. He is the citizen of the world, reflected the intellectual and political scenario of the age. The 18th century produced a number of biographers and writers of semi-public letters. Phillips Stanhope, 1694 to 1773, wrote famous letters full of wit, satire, and humor. James Boswell, 1740 to 95, the biographers of Dr. Johnson devotedly presented Dr. Johnson's life and works. Dear friends, as you are listening, English literature fundamentals and basics of the literature. What is fiction? Realism of the age and the development of an excellent prose style greatly helped the evolution of novels. Some of the main characteristics of 18th century fiction are depiction of real life, preeminence of manners and sentiments, influence of Puritanism and later Methodism, arrival of the Picasso Convention, satirical analysis of human vices and follies, advent of the Bilden Bildengrove narrative. Daniel Defoe, 1660 to 1731, wrote his mind in the form of fictional autobiographies or diaries to give his works realistic touches. His famous works include Moor Flanders, Roxana, and Robinson Crusoe, Lawrence Serene, 1718 to 68, popular work The Life and Opinions of Tristan Sandy, served as a motivational force for many 20th century writers. It was intended by Stern as a comedy that reveals the ridiculousness of the human vanity and life itself. Samuel Richardson, 1689 to 1761, first novel Pamela was an epistolary novel dealing with the theme of a young girl's continually besieged virtue. His other works such as Clarissa and Sir Charles Grandison were also very popular. Horace Walpole, 1717 to 97, set out to create a completely different kind of novel in Castle of Otranto, where he tried to reveal, where he tried to revolt against sentimental literature and novel of manners, and brought out an entirely new form of fiction called Gothic novel. The history of Tom Johnson. The history of Tom Jones is Henry Fielding, 1707 to 1754. Best known work, it is in the biographical mode, charting the history of charting the history of a founding Tom Jones. Toby Smollett, 1721 to 71, was a Scottish writer, and his works highlight the Picaresque tradition as well as travel narratives. His prominent novels are The Adventures of Ferdinand Count Fathom, Adventure of Sir Lancelot Greaves, and Roderick Random. Many female novelists such as Fanny Burney, Evelina, Cecilia, and Camilla, Sarah Fielding, David Simple, and the governess, Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, Frankenstein, Mrs. Annie Radcliffe, Mysteries of Udolpho, also the development of this genre. Dear friends, thanks for listening and watching. 3M Creator, liking, sharing, and subscribing. May God bless all of you. Thank you. Thank you, all of you.